Y'all hear me? Oh, you can't hear me. Hello, everybody. It's so good to see you all here. This just makes our day and our week and our month to have all of you back in here with us and able to reconnect with each other and reconnect with Butterfield in a little bit larger setting. So we're just so glad to have you back here, and we have a really wonderful program planned for you. I'm Kelly Sire, and I am the Director of Marketing. I have the absolute honor of having that role here at Butterfield. And of course, I have an amazing team that you all probably know better than you know me. We have Leanne Pacheco, who's back there in the back. She's busily writing something, but most of you have probably talked multiple times with Leanne, and she is the one that kind of keeps that crazy tapestry of opportunities in her mind and in the computer and figuring out when we can actually start helping people get here to campus. So wonderful relationship for you to have. Dave Marks, I'm sure many of you know, and he is our move-in coordinator. And Dave has been running a shuttle back and forth to the parking lot. And so he'll be here in just a few minutes, but I'm sure many of you have had a chance to meet him. He's been at Butterfield for a long time. And then, of course, we have Elise Lorene, and she's the wonderful voice on the other end of the phone in the marketing office. So when all of you call in and have questions or need something, that's often the person who's taking wonderful care of you. So just wanted to make sure you know who's who. So I've now been here for just over a year, and it has been just an adventure getting to know all of the wonderful things that are taking place at Butterfield. But I didn't really realize until April, when the masks started coming off and the activities started returning to campus, what life is really like at Butterfield. And so I know you all have so much to look forward to. And of course, many of you have been participating in those activities for a while. So we're glad to have you back. This is extra special just for you. There were lots of residents that were interested in what we were doing today, and we said, this is just for the Carriage Club. so you have your own special luncheon today. So without further ado, because I know what you're really here to do is to hear this wonderful presentation that we have lined up for you. Back in January, I sent out an email, and so many of you probably received that and had a little survey in it, and I was asking, what are the kinds of topics that you might be interested in hearing about if we do Lunch and Learns on campus? And resoundingly, the hot topic is downsizing and figuring out how to prepare for a big move, because of course most of you have been spending your lives amassing amazing treasures and the things that have come to you through your family. Maybe are they not all treasures? You've just been amassing, we'll just call it that. But it's kind of daunting when you start trying to figure out how to break all that down and move on to the next step in your life. So we found the perfect people to talk to you. These lovely ladies are here from the Lighthouse group in WA, and they actually came by our office several months back to kind of tell us what type of work that they do in case we had anybody that might be interested in their services. And after talking to them, we realized that they know exactly what our Carriage Club members are concerned about and thinking about and worrying about and also excited about. So we thought this was exactly who we needed to bring to Butterfield to talk to all of you. So I'm going to do some quick introductions, and they're going to all kind of take turns talking a little bit. First, I want to introduce you to Alison Van Hecke. She's right here. She'll kind of be the primary presenter, but she also has two with her. This is Jenni Cox right here, and Amy Field right here. And then back in the back, absolutely not last but not least, is the very newest member of the Lighthouse group in WA. And this is Jamie Sperling, and she has just joined the team, and so we're so tickled that she was able to be here for this presentation too. So that means I get to hand it over to Alison. So give her a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much for having us out, Kelly. We really appreciate it. We're really excited to be here. This is our first back in-person seminar since COVID. So seeing all your lovely faces makes me excited and a little nervous. It's been a little while. I feel like we're a little bit out of practice. So Very excited that you took the time to be here today. I would like to start with saying that we are going to be talking about 5 easy steps. Easy is just a word that we're going to use today because we are going to try to simplify it for you. That's our whole job. That's what we do, is we try to simplify a downsize because there is so much to think about. And as we were preparing for this topic, Kelly said 30 minutes. I said, okay, no problem. And then we were like, oh, we want to talk about this. We want to talk about this. These are for, so we have other things we could talk about another time, but we're going to really focus on just simplifying the downsize and focusing on a few things. And we will just talk and then write down your questions, and we'll be happy to field those when we're done. In front of you, you should have a sheet of paper that just looks like this, and I don't know if any of you turned it over, but there is a place to take notes as we go through the steps. So just wanted to point that out to you. Okay, I am ready for the next slide. We are ready to talk downsizing. So here's the point. The point is to get your stuff smaller. So lots of times we show up at our consultations and people just look like deer in the headlights. They don't know where to start. So that's where we're going to start today. We're going to start with, what do you do? Okay. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to want to surround yourself with professionals. Can you do it DIY? Absolutely. You sure can. Not a problem. But what we find when we come in is that we have a proven method to go through the downsizing process that works very well. When you do it yourself, it's very hard to identify, where do you start? What do you do with all this stuff? All of these questions get overwhelming to the point where you just don't do anything. And that's not what we want to have happen. We don't want you to be frozen with indecision about where to start or what to do, because it is a big task. It's huge. So I'm going to just kind of point out some of our professionals. There's me, bigger than life. But I'm the owner of Lighthouse Group, NWA, and I have a background in social work. I have an LMSW. I'm a licensed master social worker turned real estate agent. That sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? But really what we do is we work with the emotions. We work with the hand-holding process. We work with understanding that you're going to be grieving the losses of some of the items in your home. And so we help with a lot more than just if you hired movers or packers. Really what we want to do is make this a fun process as much as we can. But I am a real estate agent. I have a team of move managers, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves, because when I started this company, real estate was what I focused on, and then I realized what was really holding people back from being able to move forward was the stuff in the house. And that's where these ladies come in.
So I'm Jenni Cox, and I am the Director of Operations for the move management part, and my job is to coordinate all the moving pieces. So like we said, downsizing, this is not your normal move. I know some people have I've moved 15 times in my life or 20 times. This is a totally different move, and hopefully you'll only have to do that once. We've done it many times. So there are processes, there are things that can fall through the cracks, and so we just kind of give you one contact person that can manage all those moving pieces. So that's what I do. And then Amy.
I'm Amy Field, and I'm so happy because I got to see quite a few people that I haven't seen in a long time here, so yay for that. I am a move manager, but when people ask me what I do, I kind of tell them that I'm an emotional handholder, and that's actually the best part of my job, because even when you're excited about a move, it's hard, it's scary, and this move in particular has emotional issues that no other move has. And I just love working with clients and helping them decide what is really important to me, what needs to go with me, and what can go, and helping them decide, where can it go? You know, can it go to my kids? Can it go to other family members? Can it bring someone else joy? So I like to help people decide what they can keep and what they won't keep. And then I also love moving people in and helping them decorate to make it look like their home, so that when they walk in, they feel at home and they have this big sigh of relief because it's done.
So I think what you're hearing is that from start to finish, our team can really step in and help you with decisions. And the important thing that Jenni said is you have only are doing this remove hopefully once. We do it every day, and so we know how to get this done for you. Okay, next slide. So let's talk about what is your greatest fear about downsizing? What is it that keeps you up at night? Is it losing memories that you have in your home, things that maybe mean something to you, like the dishes that have been passed down for generations, maybe photo albums, different things that, antique furniture that may have been passed down to you from generation to generation? Are those things that keep you up at night? Is it the fear of the unknown? Because really moving into Butterfield isn't just a move, it's a change of lifestyle. So you have had a single family home or a condo or a townhouse independent for your entire adult life. Moving in here means a little bit of a different lifestyle. And what does that mean? And it's a little bit scary and a little bit unknown. Then people get really afraid of the stress that they're feeling. They don't feel good sometimes themselves. Your energy level isn't what it was when you were younger. So the thought of just doing the work is overwhelming. And so that's where we really want you to start thinking as you're preparing for a downsize. Face those fears and acknowledge them and admit them to yourself. Also, what we want you to do is, before you get started, when you're thinking about doing this downsize, is acknowledge your emotional and your physical roadblocks. So a lot of people are emotional about the items that they have in their home. Why? Kind of analyze that for yourself. What does this mean? And to think about what purpose has it served you, and do you still need it? That's the thing that we want you to think about is, you have a lot of beautiful things in your homes. They've served you well. Do you still need them? And that's a very hard thing to come to grips with sometimes. The other thing that we want you to talk about is that, or want to think about, is that there's things that you've spent really good money on. I hear that all the time. But I spent really good money on this Ethan Allen dresser back in 1975. And great, it is beautiful. But do you still need it? And can somebody else use it? Is it time to bless someone else with your Ethan Allen dresser? And those are things that to think about. Really, there's lots of ways to store memories, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But it's the memories I know that people are afraid of losing, and so we'll talk a little bit about different tactics and ways that you can preserve those memories. The other thing, I'm going to go back to that Ethan Allen dresser because we see those a lot. It's hurtful when the kids don't want your stuff. And it happens, and it's really hard, and that's one of the emotional things we deal with, is that we love our stuff, but not everybody wants it. Not everybody needs it, or not everybody has space for it, and so that's really hard because in your mind when you bought it, it was a piece that was to be treasured, to be passed on, just like your parents and their parents passed on to you. This younger generation, younger than myself, they don't want things, and that's the hard truth of our culture today. They want experiences. And so when you have these beautiful collections or these beautiful pieces of furniture, you have to work through some of those feelings of it may just have to go to somebody else and the kids don't want it. And that's not always easy. So facing some of these emotional and physical roadblocks is one of the first steps, along with the fears, till you even get started. Okay, next slide, please. We are going to create a plan. That is our next step. It's about time, huh? So the goal of this decluttering is not just to clean the house. We've done that many, many times. The goal of this decluttering is about downsizing. So you have to switch your brain around to think about, what do you want to keep? What is it that you want to take with you into your new lifestyle here at Butterfield Trail? It's not, what we want you to not do when you're starting out is focus on everything else in the house. So let's talk, I think it's our next slide maybe. Yes, decisions. this is the biggest question. What do I take and what do I leave behind? And how do I decide these things? So next slide, please. Jenni's going to talk about what is clutter.
All right, the big question. And, talking about the goal of downsizing is for when you move to your new home here at Butterfield, you want it to be a comfortable space and a safe space. So obviously, not everything is going to fit from a home this size to this size, so how do we take those things with you? So typically we look at our stuff and we do the 3 piles like on the first slide. What are we going to keep, what are we going to toss, and what's maybe? And that's the maybe pile is where we get stuck. One little thing I've heard recently, cute, if it's cute, is not a reason to keep it. Especially because cute stands for can't use that ever. So just because it's cute, that is not a reason, or I love, it's pretty. Thank you for being pretty. Thank you for, and just move that on. But the definition of clutter from the dictionary is anything that impedes movement. And when I first heard that, my first thought is trash on the floor, or there's clutter on the coffee table. But it's all kinds of movement. It's your financial movement. It's your emotional movement. It's your social, are you paying off something and that's keeping movement from moving into Butterfield at this time or taking a trip that you want? Anything that impedes movement. So the more you think about that, it impedes movement and it has to have a home. So when you're trying to decide on certain things, like junk mail that comes in from the mailbox, that does not have a home in your house. So that is an easy, that's clutter. But other things like the knickknacks, your collections that you've been keeping all these years, there's 3 questions you need to ask yourself to decide if it's clutter or not. Does it have a home? Meaning a place where it goes. Do you still love it? And are you willing to keep up with it, to maintain it? So if you have this dish collection, if it's not, that's the first question. If you don't love it anymore, it's clutter. That one's an easy to get rid of. Okay, you still love it, but now I don't have a place for it. It's clutter. You loved it while you had it, but that doesn't take away from the love you enjoyed. It's just time to move it on. And then do you want to dust it? Do you want to pay... No. Or do you want to pay someone to pack it? Or do you want to, if it's not going to fit in your new home, are you willing to pay for storage for it for a family member who may or may not want it later? So those are the 3 things. Do you love it? Do you have a home for it? And are you willing to maintain it? Whatever that would take to maintain that. So yes, that's what I have on that one. What's the next slide? Oh, so when you're going through your things, memories, memorabilia, photos, those are the hardest things to get through. So we always suggest start with the physically large items and the emotionally easy items. It doesn't take a lot of emotional strain to go through your sock drawer or your pin collection. Get those, kind of get some momentum going. But when it talks about memories really are a story that needs to be shared. So when you find something and you're going through those things, start sharing your stories. If it's too hard that day, put that to the side, and the next time the family gets together, make a memory with your memories. Pull out. I know someone said, I don't know where she was sitting, that she blessed her children with boxes and boxes of photos the other day. Next time the whole family gets together, create a memory of everybody going through the memories. And there she is. And that was a big step. She passed that on, but then helped the kids get those memories. So we don't want to lose the memories. You want to share those.
With that, so there's a couple of different things about legacy and memories because it's very important. You've lived an amazing life and it deserves to be told and it deserves to be shared, but sometimes that isn't necessarily through the things that you have. And so there's a couple different websites and books that I want to share with you. One of the things you can do with memories is oral history, and that's easy. When you're together, talk about your childhood, talk about your career, talk about your missions trips and different things that you did as a young adult. Those are important. I will say, as a personal experience, my dad has done an amazing job with that. When we go up to his hometown, he'll take us for walks. I remember as a kid going through his town and just him sharing stories about that tree and that swing set and that house where he had his first kiss. And I mean, all of these things. And I can go back up to Michigan and I feel like I'm right close to my dad. And it's really special. So it's never too late to get started with that. You have to jog your own memory first to be able to do that, though. So a website I want to share is legacyletter.org, and that helps you to formulate a plan on how to share your legacy with your next generation. So you can either choose to write that yourself, or you can hire writers if you don't want to do the writing yourself. Either way. But that's a great place to start. And then also there's a book called Writing Your Legacy, the step-by-step guide to crafting your life story. If you were to craft your life story and sprinkle in pictures of your different items that mean something to you, how special would that be for a Christmas gift for some of your family members? It is something people want that. They don't want your Ethan Allen dresser, but they want that. So that's what I would have to say about memories. Use technology, write it down, spend some time just thinking about what in your house means something to you and that you want to share that with other people. What is it about your life that has meant something to you and that you want to share with other people? So that's where I would start with that. Next, we have really the important piece. Jenni started talking about it, and I'll let her kind of step in here. But what is important with categorizing your possessions is starting with the easy stuff. Starting with the stuff that doesn't have sentimental meaning to you. Start with the large things. Start with things that you cannot fit in your new space. Start with those things. Then you move on to the emotionally hard. But don't start with the emotional ones first. But we'll talk a little bit about how we do our process. So that, Amy, do you want to share that? How we work on our process and go through that?
So when we start with you, we will kind of get a feel for you and your personality and your life and your home and belongings. And then we have a basic list to start with. These are the things that you absolutely will need. And we have lists for each room to make it easy for you. And then, and it depends on each client because we work with you. We work with how you want to work. We kind of look at where you want to start. As Alison said, not with the emotionally charged things, but maybe in a spare bedroom or a craft room or an office. I love to start in the kitchen because that is one of the biggest problems. And I've noticed that we can do the kitchen pretty fast, much faster than you think. And when we get that done, we usually get maybe this won't be so hard after all. So we want to start with something that's going to be a big start so you'll know, all right, I can do this. If I have help, we can do this.
Okay, next slide, please. We did talk about this before, but one of the things we really can't emphasize enough, because when we go to meet people for the first time, they want to talk about everything in the house, and that's where you get stuck. Really just focus on what you want to keep with you. And that is probably the best advice we can give you today, is don't think about everything in the garage. Don't think about everything in the craft room. Don't think about everything in the spare bedroom. Only look at it from, okay, I'm moving to a 2-bedroom townhouse. What do I need for that space? So that's kind of probably my number one advice, my number one takeaway from today is only focus on what you want to keep. Next slide, please. There we go. I found this quote from Henry Ford, and I thought it was perfect for downsizing. Nothing is particularly hard if you divide it into small jobs, and we'll talk about that next.
So I think the next slide. So there's different ways, and we all do things differently. Some people, it's easier to divide the decluttering or the downsizing by rooms in the house. And because if you just think, I'm going to downsize my whole house, you just freeze there. So, okay, we'll start in the bedroom or we'll start in the kitchen. Well, that can still be overwhelming. So we'll just start with a spice drawer or we'll just start, you just keep going down till you get something that you can do, get it over with in 10, 15 minutes, and then it sounds silly, but it's this huge sense of relief, and you're like, look at me go, and then you go to the next thing. So you can break it down by space, or the next slide is break it down by time. So set a 15-minute timer. We can all focus for 15 minutes, and if you want to keep going after that, keep going, but don't feel guilty if you don't. I think a lot of times we think of this process as an event where it needs to be just a task that you do every day. You take the garbage out, you go through a drawer, you just kind of make it in your task list, and then just set that time limit so you have an expectation, and it's not always on your head, like you're not blaming yourself because you're not doing it. You're going to do it for 15 minutes, and then you can move on to something else.
I think along with that is we were looking at some research the other day and some articles and stories, and what we heard was called a silent to-do list, and that's the list that each of us has in our head that we beat ourselves up on. It's the list that when you walk into your office and you see a pile there and you just leave it, it's that silent to-do list that you beat yourself up with, like, why is it still there? Maybe the junk mail is still sitting on the kitchen counter 2 days later, and it's this little to-do list that you don't really admit to yourself, but it's that silent killer of your motivation, really. So give yourself permission. Like she said, break it down one task at a time. If your junk mail stays on the counter for a day or more, it wasn't on the to-do list that day, and let it go. So don't beat yourself up over, my friend downsized in 2 days. Well, maybe she wasn't as attached to things as you are, or maybe her whole house just didn't, or maybe her kids took her stuff. I don't know, but don't beat yourself up over how you operate, how you want to do this process. It is your process, and we recognize that. So the next step, you cannot leave out the adult kids. We're important people. We think we're great. And so, we want the best for you. Your kids want you to be happy. But in that, you also have to recognize, next slide please, that they may be grieving some losses too. They may not only just grieve actually the loss of maybe a childhood home, but they may be for the first time recognizing that, oh, mom and dad are getting older, they're moving someplace different. What does this mean for our new relationship? It may be hard for them. So I think having conversations with your kids early, having them open and honest, not to ask their permission for the downsize, but to inform them, this is what we are doing, this is when we're doing it. So, when you have a timeline, let them know, this is when I want you to come get your stuff from my house, and set a timeline for that. Say, if you don't come and get it, it's going to be gone because we can't move it to Butterfield with us. Set those boundaries with them. Acknowledge that they're feeling something about your move as well. Tell them where you're moving. Maybe bring them for lunch here. Maybe, I know Kelly and Leanne would be more than welcome, I'm sure, to have your adult kids come check the place out and make sure that they understand where you're moving. And then tell them how you're planning on doing this, because that's another thing. We like to be in control. And so tell them, I have a plan. I have people, and people are going to help me so that, the kids in California or the kids in Illinois don't have to come down for a month when they've got busy lives of their own up in Illinois or California or wherever they are. You've taken care of it, and that's very reassuring. It's a gift to your kids when you've thought these things through and when you communicate them effectively with them. Yes, please.
I just want to point out, we talked earlier about people who think, oh, I can do this myself, and as Alison said, you certainly can. But we have found a lot of times when there's certain family dynamics, and you all know what I mean, sometimes having a third party to come in and say, okay, we're going to work in this room, and we're really good at diffusing those dynamics, let me just say. So sometimes it's a lot easier also for us to say no than for someone else, or for us to say, yeah, we're taking that because that's meaningful and we'll find a room for it. Just sometimes a third party is very helpful.
That's a nice way of saying it.
I I think what she's referring to is the difficult time maybe moms and daughters have working together with things because we all have our own idea. But we do. That's a very good point. We can be very good mediators in the whole situation because if it gets a little bit tense, we can help diffuse that. You are our client, not your children. So it's what you want, and we represent you when we're in the house. And if the kids get involved, we respectfully refer them to mom and dad's wishes are this. So just want that to be 100% clear on that. Okay, next slide. Okay, we kind of talked about this. What we would like to talk about next is the estate liquidation piece of this, because that's always another huge piece of downsizing is you won't have enough room for everything in your house at the new place. So next slide, please. What do you do with a house full of possessions? Next slide. Okay, so there's a couple options. I'm going to let Jenni talk about the estate sale piece of this. I will be really honest with you. COVID has not been friendly to the estate liquidation business whatsoever. It has really changed how people shop for the used items or their auction items. And so we have had to do a lot of research on what is the best way to get you the most money for the assets inside your house. And so this is kind of what we have landed on.
So yes, so auctions for the most part are a thing of the past, at least for your furniture and dishes and things like that. For a long time during COVID, auctions were considered entertainment, so they were completely shut down. Because you could only have, and then once they started opening up, you could only have 10 people in the room at a time, which is not really great if you're trying to sell your things. So they have found that people are willing to spend more money on something that's already priced and just can go in and buy it and leave and not sit around for 5 or 6 hours through an auction and then possibly not get the item that they wanted. So we really, unless it's a highly collectible item or an antique car or some really specialized things, our estate sale team can put those things online to reach a broader audience and possibly do an auction with that. But in most situations, estate sales are the way to go. That being said, with COVID, everyone's been in their homes for a long time. They're like, I really don't want this stuff anymore. So a lot of people are getting rid of things right now. So unfortunately, the market is flooded. So just trying to you have loved this Ethan Allen dresser. We're just going to keep talking about that. You spent the money for it in 1975, and it has lasted this whole time. You got your money's worth. It is great value. Someone's not going to pay top dollar for it now. That doesn't mean you made a bad choice. That's just supply and demand right now. So, we want anything from the estate sale we consider a bonus. What else should I say about it? Yeah.
So the estate sale is what we really talk about a lot is your main asset, the one that we want to protect for you and get the most money for is your house. I'm sure you've all heard that your house is worth a lot more today than it was a year ago. So that's what you have to keep in mind. Like she said, that money that you get from the things inside it is almost bonus money at this point because of the situation we find ourselves in with the amount of extra items in our world. What she didn't mention that I want to make sure we say is that when we're downsizing, you can really bet that we're going to try and get you moved so that you're in your new home, and then we're going to come back and take care of the estate liquidation piece. So you've already moved everything that you want to keep. You've gotten a couple of days to do some back and forth, and then we come back with our estate liquidation team. What they do then is they empty the house, and they take it to a storeroom where they set it there until they're ready for your sale. Then they take it into their warehouse, and they set up vignettes at their warehouse where people can come in and shop. So it's an estate sale, but it's in a warehouse setting. We're finding that a lot of success with that. What that does is that allows us to come back to your house, and it allows us to get it ready for sale faster so we can capitalize on this market. So that's what we do. You are already enjoying life here, and we're working on like the Dickens on the back end to get you the most money for your house. In the meantime, we're also decorating your place here, and that's where Amy and her team will come in and help resettle you. So that's kind of what that looks like. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. But we work where we sort with you, we pick what you want to take with you, we move you over here, then we go back to your house and liquidate the assets that you no longer want. And that's how our process works. Next slide. Auction, like she said, they just aren't making a lot of money right now. It's just, if there is an auction, it's online. Most people are not doing in-person auctions anymore. With the aside of maybe farm furniture, so if you live on a farm, if you have farm furniture or farm equipment, if you have farm furniture, it might be worth something. I don't know. We also work with donations. So obviously, if you support a certain charity, we want to make sure we support that for you. Our estate liquidation team will take whatever you want to be donated to your specific charity. If you don't have a specific charity, if there are items that don't sell, then we come up with the charity based on what didn't sell and what the needs are. So, anything else, ladies, on that? Okay, next. You did it. Celebrate. It's a big job. It is easy when you work with a team that knows what they're doing, but it isn't easy, if you know what I mean. So celebrate the fact that you did it. A year from now, who knows? You could be sitting here and not invited to this meeting because you already did it. And acknowledge that it wasn't easy all the way through, but you did it, and now you can move, and you're free of your clutter. So next slide. Okay, so this is just our contact information. There is lots of information on the tables back there. We have articles, we have sign-up sheet if you're interested in just doing a consultation. We do offer free consultations. We do not charge for those, and we don't push people. We meet you where you are. If you're not moving for a year, great, but maybe arm yourself with information about what can we do for you in your home, because it is very individualized per person. So that's one thing I would say is if you're interested, go see Jamie back at the back table. Come grab a brochure. But I would like to open it up for questions. So now is your chance. Any questions? Yes. Oh. Oh, yes. Oh. I was going to say, we have never had that happen to us.
Is that extra?
Test. Okay. You can start anytime. So some of the things that we talked about at the very beginning, like analyzing your fears, putting together a list of things, talking to your kids, you can do that now. Ask them, what would you like from my house? If you haven't made a list of disbursement items, start with that. But you can start with little bits of the process anytime. When we come on board, we would like to be able to say, okay, we're ready to go, and have you had worked through some of those things about the fears that you have or the emotional roadblocks that you've had, and then we can take it from there for sure. But you can start on any of those anytime.
But putting it off does not make it easier. It actually makes it harder. So anything you can start now, just even thinking through the processes will make it easier.
Yeah, I would say if you're really thinking about it, have us out, and then we can give you a list of homework.
All right, I've got a question here. We'll use the microphone.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to know when and where I can go to one of your estate sales.
Me too.
Are we buying more things? No. You're supposed to be.
We're downsizing, right?
Chris Kimbrell Auctions and Estate Sales is who we use, but we discourage purchasing. That's right. You can't go until we move you.
On your estate sales, do you do just one at a time, or do you combine several different houses and have a larger one?
Good question. So we do combine them when the estate is smaller. If the estate is larger, then there's two options with a larger estate. We would do one in a home probably for a larger estate rather than hauling it to the warehouse. You will make more money in your home with a large estate than you would if we hauled it to the warehouse. And it's just better on your furniture and different things. You don't want to have to haul it a million times. So, yes, a good point, when there are multiple sales in one estate sale, like I said, he takes everything of yours to a storage space. Before it even goes in that storage space, it's marked as yours, every single thing. So it's tagged specifically to your family, and then, so if it's in a vignette with someone else's items, when the people check out, they know it was yours.
Question, how do you charge for your services?
What a great question. Really what we do, here, I'm going to let you talk.
Sure. Well, no, I can. We can't give a price right now because every job is so individualized. So we would meet with you in the consultation, find out how far you are in the downsizing process. We are a full service, quote, in the move management thing, and I think we didn't really talk about that. We are not a moving company. We are a move managing company. And so we can do space planning. We provide the packers, all the packing material. We contract with professional movers. We bring a cleaning team in when we're done. So our quote involves all of that. So unless we know how big your house is, where you're going, if you need help with the sorting, all those things are taken into consideration. So is that clear as mud? No. Okay. It's by the job. It's by the job, yes.
And we would tell you after a free consultation, once we've seen your home and see what there is to move, then we could give you a price.
I will say, to give you a little bit of an answer there, because it is very hard. A moving company wouldn't come in and that's worth its weight in gold, wouldn't come in and give you a quote today, right here, standing here. We want to see your house. The average quote that we would see with a local move and I'm going to throw out a 2,000 square foot home, 2,000 to 2,500 square foot home, would be in the neighborhood of anywhere between $4,000 and $7,000. Does that help? And that includes everything. That includes your movers, your supplies. It includes everything. So if that helps, I know that's really, and it really just depends how much work you've done ahead of time. It depends how much labor is involved in our emotional hand-holding to be able to get rid of things, and just really where you're going. What space do you have? If you're not downsizing all that much, if you're going from, 3,000 square feet to 1,500, that's a big downsize. And then, so the quote depends on a lot of those things. There's our political answer.
Hi, I'm over here behind the pillar. I was just curious if in part of the moving process where you talk about taking everything out and then prepping the home to sell, do you keep in mind that you're going to stage the home a little bit with some of the furniture and everything?
So in my experience in real estate, it's either all or none. If you stage it with just little pieces of things, it looks kind of undone. What I find works really well in our market, really anything can sell well now, but in our market, the coasts prefer staging. If you're in California and you go into a house for sale, you're going to expect to see it staged. Northwest Arkansas is not that way. A lot of houses, and what I have most success in is empty, vacant homes, because people can then walk in and see themselves in it. They can see where their furniture will go. They're not tainted by how you have it decorated. And so our process can work either way. You can stay home if you would prefer during the home sale process, but we prefer that we make it easier on you, so you don't have to deal with the showings, you don't have to deal with keeping it clean, you don't have to deal with leaving and not knowing what to do for an hour 10 times a day. So that's part of what our easy process is getting you moved first.
Other questions?
Not yet. No, we are not. We're not a franchise. No. This business came from my experience, actually, as a social worker at the hospital, Mercy Hospital, when I would work with patients and their families who maybe then couldn't return home. It was very easy to find, a home for the patient, but then the family was stuck with so much with the house, with the belongings, and there was no one to help out. And that's a very frustrating place to be when there's no resource for that. So my goal with this is to answer that question of what do I do with my house? What do I do with my stuff? And it's really to move you forward in your process of where you want to get.
This is a question about your possibility of helping with decorating a new place. Now, if I understood what you said, you will come in and decide or help decide what would fit into the new place. And, of course, it'd be other places. We certainly don't want to have to go out to furniture stores and have to, buy new furniture and deal with getting it moved in and all that. Do you perform that service?
Do you want to answer that, Allison? We have not.
We have some interior decorators that we can work with if you are interested in purchasing new furniture, because we're not interior decorators per se. So, you'll get the benefit of, interior decorators having a discount or a relationship with certain places. So we would refer you to somebody with that. We provide space planning. So if you want to take your new items, then we will help you figure out where those go. If you want to purchase new items and we work closely with those people to make sure that there's a nice blend of what we're doing and what they're doing makes sense together. So yes, we have resources or if you have somebody that you already work with and know, happy to work alongside them.
Yeah, I'll jump in there just for a second. We do have a person named Cecily. Some of you may have heard of her or met her, who works very closely with a lot of our incoming residents. And so because she has assisted people for so many years at Butterfield, she really knows the layout of the different spaces that are available. Right. So she can be very efficient in assisting you. So that is an option, right, to have somebody that kind of already knows the lay of the land pretty well.
Yes.
You are not restricted to working with Cecily by any means, but she is somebody that is available. Mm-hmm. So it's good to know.
Right. And if she works on one end and we work on the other, or if she, we can. The nice thing about our services is it is a concierge menu, if you will, to where you can take as much of our services as you want, or you can leave some behind. So if you don't want to have us resettle and you want Cicely to do that, that just wouldn't be a part of your quote.
In the real estate world, we've all watched HGTV. And I'm wondering whether or not when we move into a smaller home and we know that we cannot take the washer, the dryer, the refrigerator, does leaving those things in the home help or hurt? Or do they have to be stainless steel?
Very good question. That's another question that's a little bit of we need to determine that. So, for example, if you have top-of-the-line appliances and they all match, then I would say keep it with the house. You're not going to be taking the refrigerator with you, and that's an added bonus to your buyers. If you have a mismatched set of, dishwasher, refrigerator, stove, then I would say send it to the estate sale and get some money for it. and let the buyers just bring. And it also really depends on your price point of your home too. A price point that's lower and maybe a first-time home buyer looking at it, leave the refrigerator. Help them out a little bit. If you feel like if it's a higher-end home, it's larger, people want their own things, they want to bring what they want there, and you don't have matching appliances, then so it really depends. Does that help you a little bit? So. Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the initial consult. So the initial consult involves a real estate consult and a move management consult. So we're looking at it from two different points of view. So when I leave the house, then we'll have a good idea if we were to list the house today, what we could list it for. And I will tell you, because I know everybody says, oh, my stairs are a mess, they need to be refinished, or everybody has a honey-do list. So sometimes it's worth doing those things and sometimes it's not. Consult a professional like myself before you do those things if you're really thinking about selling. Because if you decide that your carpet is old and you want to replace it with carpet, you could be making an expensive decision. We may need to talk through other options.
This relates back to your question on pricing and how you price it. You gave a price range for like your full service. Are you willing to break it up into smaller pieces, like if we were just interested in the estate sale, for example?
So if you wanted just the estate sale, then I would say hire an estate sale company. That would be my advice to you. If you just want the help with the move, we're not, like she said, we're not movers. We contract with professional movers, so just hire movers. So if you want those particular services, those are the only ones we don't do, are the moving and the estate sale. If you want help sorting, but you don't want anything else, we can do that. If you want help packing, but nothing else, we can do that. It's those third-party services that I would recommend you go just straight to the source.
Any other questions?
No? Well, I would love for anybody, please take those boxes in the middle of the table. They're full of candy. I don't want to take them home. My kids don't need them. And so take a box with you. Visit Jamie at the back table. We have all kinds of newsletters and articles back there to be helpful.
Question.
Oh, one more question. Sorry.
If you're selling the house, that $4,000 to $7,000 sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
It really does. And you know what? It is. I can't think of one person who hasn't said it wasn't worth every penny they spent, because we take the stress out of the process. Thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it. We'll be around for questions if you have any.